Did NVIDIA just tell us that this is the top? And we're going to get into that today as we get into some technical analysis for the SPY Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, NVIDIA, AMD, and Meta. We're going to touch on NVIDIA right after we do the SPY and Qs, and we have those updated daily risk ranges for you. This is something you really want to pay attention to, and that's the thing we were talking about live this morning, so let's get into it. We saw the sell-off, but let's take a breather real quick. Let's take a big breath and just get our daily ranges for the SPY tomorrow, and that would be 522.55 to the upside and 514.81 to the downside. Very hard to see. Why? Because this is where that weekly expected move is as well. We're going to talk about that in a moment, but I just wanted you to notice how this is breaking down. We were saying if that curls up into positive territory, boom, we can see that extension, but you're noticing we weren't able to fully go positive here. See that roll over immediately, and then that tells you that maybe this is that cup and handle playing out at this point. So as we see that roll over break through this low, we should know that the direction, at least from what we see at the end of today, unless this is some kind of wonky trap here, is down from here. So where do we want to pay attention to? To the downside, well, we want to pay attention to that daily expected move. And the good part about the daily expected move, it's right in line with the weekly. So if we hurry up and get excited, get outside of this tomorrow, we actually can see a bounce from this level. Remember that we do end in these ranges 68% of the time, and since they're both stacked on each other, that is going to be some good support going on into tomorrow. So pay attention to that. I just wanted to quickly go over to a 2-hour as the 30-minute is going into negative territory. We have a good shot, maybe starting some kind of negative trend now. Okay, so this is actually what I was paying attention to as well. We see these divergences over here. They kind of came to nothing, but now we have that multiple point flat divergence here, divergence across the board. You have it down here on the RSI. So this is an area where weakness can be. It came up and touched our trend line. That's exactly where I was targeting. And now we're seeing that start to come down. Now, I'm still thinking we maybe have one push left in this. I'm not going to be overly fearful in a market like this until we fully go negative on this 2-hour. We still do have that opportunity for this to be some kind of pullback. And you might think I'm crazy saying that, but on the daily, what has kept us up throughout this entire run? And throughout this entire run, that would be the 20. And here's the thing, we can just look back, we can see where this thing reacted ever since we kind of, not necessarily bottomed out, but we actually got that huge surge upward that we caught. And we're noticing here, what do? We ride the 5-day all the way up, and when we do close below the 5, where do we head to? Well, we head to the 20. We get a test of the 20, and then we get a test of the 20 over and over and over again. We see it right here, we see it down here, we see it here, we see it here. There's plenty of times where we come down and test the 20. So really, your crash signal, if you want to add this onto NVIDIA, sure, NVIDIA showing you that 2-hour divergence, very, very bad, rejecting on the cross to the upside. We're going to talk about all that stuff, but if this starts to lose the 20, that's when you could say, okay, now we have a reason for this to actually start to head down. Okay, so now we do have that opportunity with this selling. You see how important NVIDIA is, and I just wanted you to see how your real crash signal might actually be to pay attention to this 20-day moving average when we're actually able to close below it and see another bar confirming that the next day. That's really when we could be seeing lower prices. Some kind of correction, we still have to be open to it as the MACD up here is still in positive territory. We could roll up again, but we're going to be aware of those types of things. We're going to be talking about that live every single morning, so join us in the morning. Make sure you like the video, subscribe, so you do see when we go live, and really pay attention if we start to lose this 20, because we could be getting an overall correction, maybe down to the 50, maybe down to this area. But as we've gone up so fast, we would likely see a very good correction coming along if we keep seeing this selling going on into tomorrow. Q's looking very, very similar to the SPY, except for it didn't really make this low down here. So let's get you those daily ranges. That'd be 447.71 to the upside and 438.91 to the downside. And we're noticing what? That's right, the weekly range is right by the bottom side of that daily expected move for tomorrow. So if we do get excited, come out of this, right, get that cup, got that handle, big handle here for a 30-minute chart, honestly. And so we could see this dramatically drop a little bit. Maybe we want to see some good support around this area right here. And we'll have to pay attention to what stocks look like before PCE. Notice that we do have another rock coming with PCE. So the next couple of days are very important. And I'm going to be putting out a video on Patreon over the next couple of days. We'll see when that's actually going to come out. I'll make sure to inform you guys when it is. But when you join the Patreon, down in the description, I do put out a video talking a little bit deeper into this stuff and seeing if we have any trade setups, which there are tons and tons out there if we want to start heading down. So the Qs here, you just want to notice we filled this gap at this point. We just haven't made that new low. So once we make that new low going into negative territory, not a good sign. And the 2 hour here, we're just noticing, guess what? That crossed over as well. So we're seeing those divergences across down here in this area. We're seeing those big divergences finally getting us closer and closer to negative territory like this, right? This kind of selling is what we're looking for. And that very well could happen tomorrow as this just confirmed down. Now we need to be a little bit more confident in it, is for it to go negative, start that negative trend, which most likely could end up going to lower prices. But I don't want to get overly bearish, right? I don't want to get overly bearish. The same thing can be true about the Qs as we talked about the SPY on the daily chart, right? We still have a lot of room to that 20-day moving average. And it's actually right around the bottom side. So we'll notice, what did we take to move higher throughout the Qs run here? Well, we reacted off the 20, we reacted off the 20, we reacted off the 20. You get the point there. The 20 is going to be very, very important. Now the Qs losing it a couple times, but able to buy it back right away. Now we're seeing that reject on the crossing of the MACD up here, and not good news unless tomorrow ends up being some kind of good day for the market. But what I would notice here is that the weekly expected move, where is it at? Well, just below the 20. So I'm expecting at least a test of the 20 come tomorrow, and then we can maybe see that come up a little bit quicker. But if we do see positivity right away, this might have been a fluke. So we just want to pay attention to this, but don't get overly bearish. The time you really want to get bearish on this is if it starts to break through. If it starts to break through and then get that confirming bar. Notice here, we didn't get the confirming bar below the 20. We just got a close below it and no confirmation of that close. So we need that to happen, and then we can talk about some Bollinger Band things maybe in a couple of days. So just be cautious out there. I know that that sell-off might scare a lot of people. I just want you to take a breath and be like, okay, let me just think about this critically. We've held up at the 20 every time. So if we turn back up, we still can see some positivity here, but this is not a good signal as of right now, not able to match this high with that flag. Now we're going to jump right into NVIDIA, a little different order today, but we told you guys about the 15-minute divergences along here. Not as good to look at on the 30-minute, but we're going to just look at a 30-minute and flip over to a 15. You're just noticing the double top up here. We break through this level coming down. This is what we were telling you guys live, right? We were saying this still has potential to curl up. So if this wants to, it has to cross into positive territory, especially on the 30-minute. Now, we were talking about the 15-minute live. The reason this is very interesting, and you'll notice you see all those divergences up here getting us into negative territory. There's a little bit of a sign there, but we can build back up from this area if we're able to cross into positive territory on the 15-minute. That's overall what we were saying live, and I want you to notice something about this MACD. Yes, it crossed, but the key part here is, did it get to positive territory? No, it rolled over into negative again. Once that does happen, you should know at least by this bar right here, hey, there is some major weakness here, and I should not be taking anything to the upside at this point. The other signal that we were giving live, hey, if this is going to crash down, well, we're going to see this 2 hour crossed over. So just before that big selling bar, we actually noticed we crossed on that MACD, tiny little red impression on the histogram. The reason the 2 hour is so important is because of the divergence. We see this divergence on the MACD and RSI at the same time, which likes to turn down that daily scale. So let's go look at the daily real quick and see what happened. And we rejected on the crossing of the MACD to the upside. So we were overall stating with this, you need that crossing of the MACD, because then that positivity can really start to come in. We can maybe head towards 1,000. But that did not happen as of right now. That is rejecting. But I want you to see we are still holding up. We're right at the 5 as of this moment. Now this is closing on the low of the day. Most likely you will see lower prices, but we'll pay attention to this 20. And why are we paying attention to the 20? Well, because we've held up at the 20 once we get above it, once here, twice over here, and then that's it. Really, maybe if you want to count this as 3 times, we've only touched it a couple times. So a correction is likely to happen eventually, and we could see that correct all the way down to the 50 at this point if we lose that 20-day moving average. But at this point, you have to say we haven't lost it. That 20-day moving average is sitting somewhere right around 880, so we can pay attention to something on the 2 hour here. What if this is actually a little bit of a fake out, a little bit of a trap before we get some good news with PCE, or is PCE just going to escalate it? So you really want to see if we break 840. That's a really good level to pay attention to. 840 going to be a really, really good level to pay attention to. As this is confirming, maybe tomorrow we do see that selling continue. But does that last all day? Because if we're looking at 880 as where the overall the 20 is on the daily scale, well, this would actually be an okay area to base out and maybe head higher. So I just want you to be open to the potential for higher prices in these stocks, and this just being some kind of pullback, just because we haven't lost the 20 yet. Now, I'm still saying the red, like the warning sign is flashing red at this point, because this is a crash indication. NVIDIA is the most important stock in the market right now. I mean, I know people talk about Reddit and those things, but this divergence up here does roll over that daily, and this is the signal we were telling you. At the top, you'll most likely see something like this, and we have it as of right now. So we could be seeing lower prices in NVIDIA very quickly. I just want you to be open to this because it's been so bullish, and the 20 is sitting right around 880 for this to turn back around. And all we have to do is pay attention to the 2-hour MACD, see if that turns back up in positive territory. So still be open to those higher prices, even though this looks very, very bad for NVIDIA, which happens to be very, very bad for the entire stock market. Now, is this going to continue? Something that we can look at is AMD. AMD being weak before all of this happened, consolidating in this area, right? We were talking about this consolidation here, telling you right around here, we're like, if NVIDIA wants to curl up, if NVIDIA doesn't want to crash down, it needs to curl up right here. So it is very interesting for this to happen. And then at the end of the day, NVIDIA see that sell-off. Maybe it was just a big dog taking some profit above 950, but we have to pay attention to it because that is some selling and people could be very scared out of NVIDIA. So what were we talking about on the hourly here? We're looking at an hourly on AMD because this is what we looked at live this morning. AMD, we were stating down here, well, this needs to buy up very quickly because if this crosses over, this hourly MACD crosses over into negative territory, you've bought yourself a lot of room, and we can see much lower prices before we even see a divergence. So right now you're looking at, if this still wants to cross over, we could head down to something like 162 before we see that actually bounce, because we have a lot of room now on this MACD to head down. So that's what I wanted to pay attention to, but I want you to notice something very funny and why this is interesting with what just happened with NVIDIA. It didn't cross on the MACD yet, right? We have to wait till tomorrow. There's a very good probability if NVIDIA continues the selling, AMD will as well. But was this just a hip-fire move? Because this not confirming as of right now. Now that could come out in the morning, just confirm right away, and we're like, okay, cool. But you notice it's right near positive territory. So this is just very interesting that we're not seeing that confirm at the end of today for AMD with all of this weakness. And actually, it's right in the center here of the MACD. So even though AMD, if it crosses, it's going to crash down a little bit. Actually, if it turns back up, you notice how close it is to positive territory. So do not be overly scared by anything like this. You know now it can escalate either way. So you want to be just very careful with this trade because it's built up liquidity for quite some time. Okay, now on the 30-minute here, just wanted to point out the same thing for the most part, right? Now this is dipping down into negative territory, but it really has to take out, I would say, this level right here. I think if it starts to close below that level and then obviously close below the actual low, but I think this one's a little fishy. So I think if you start to close below here, this 174, 173 level, it will be bad things for AMD. The good part is, if you've been following this channel and you took the course, which is still 50% off, it is $100 for the next 5 days, okay, till the end of the month, and then that price is going to increase. So make sure, if you want to get trading better, if you want to see how I see things, learn about these indicators, go grab that down in the description. You only have 5 days left to get that. So if this does roll over, we're going into negative territory, right? So we know now that the trend is negative. So any pops near the center line, if they curl over, we're going to see lower prices, right? So any pops we see, if that curls over into negative territory, that is going to continue at this point. And AMD is still in negative territory for the 30-minute, and we can even use it for a second if you'd like to show you guys that reaction when you do curl over into negative territory every time. Look at this. So we curl over right up here, we start to crash down, and that continues. Then we curl back up. What do? We get close to that center line, but we turn down, we gap down, and that selling continues. So as we are looking through, you're just noticing that even this dip right here, well, we crossed over on the MACD, right? We crossed over right before it. We see it dip down, and overall now we're creeping into positive. So as we go negative, I'm just stating this can continue, and that's usually how it happens. It likes to build up to the center line and then drop again. This is where I wanted to throw something in. I know we're talking about that because it is a very good signal to follow. If NVIDIA falls, the whole market will most likely fall. One thing I wanted to point out, Apple selling off but not able to close below this level as of right now. It can head lower. We can make another point of divergence before we actually see a bounce before PCE. Right? Because we see this, we could get a little triple divergence on a 30-minute, but this is what we posted on Patreon, and then we updated it and said, okay, we need to be a little bit careful. This looks kind of flaggy, right? We were just saying there's other stocks that are showing you some weakness. So if Apple's in a negative trend, which it is right now, that can continue. Okay, that can continue even with divergences and things like that. If NVIDIA starts to sell off, I suspect Apple will do the same. Now, unless Apple's technicals are really telling us, yeah, NVIDIA is going to crash down and then Apple's going to boom, that would be interesting. But as of right now, you have to say negative territory, curling over on the MACD. Looks like you might break through this unless you're able to buy back up pretty quick in the morning. So I think if we're able to buy back up quick in the morning on Apple, then we're okay. But if we start to close below this level right here, this is curling over. We could go a lot lower. We could go all the way down to 164, right? Something around 168.50 would be a good level to pay attention to. But you're noticing we have to pay attention to downside. Now, Apple is telling you there are divergences here. So if this does not go lower, then you do have the chance for a reaction. We have built up liquidity in here. We really have. You're just hoping this isn't a cup and a big liquidity handle to actually head lower at this point for Apple. Tesla, we were talking about how this is a strong move and it's outside of the weekly expected move. So this is a very strong move and it came above 180. So I suspected this was going to be able to hold up above our weekly expected moves that we give out on Patreon for each stock that we do cover on this channel. And this was a great time. So you knew that the weekly expected moves got this right again. You pop way above it. What do? You gravitate right back into it. So right around here, right? So we're within that again. And now we're seeing what? Well, it completed that cup really fast. What if we get a small handle? What if we don't even get that handle at this point and we just start to head lower to fill this gap? Okay, so you have to pay attention to this on Tesla, but this isn't exactly the weakest. We could be just retesting in this area where we grab liquidity. What if we hold up in this area and turn back up? That's where I'm going to look at my 2-hour again, see if this curls down for a moment, but see if it curls right back up in positive territory. See if it goes like this, or if it just continues right now, that would be an actually bullish thing. So even on the 15-minute, you see how we're selling off. If that curls up, we can see more positivity out of Tesla, getting some good news, giving away a free month of the self-driving capabilities on the Tesla cars to Tesla owners. That way they can test it out, probably to possibly purchase it, you know, the next month. So apparently that's really, really good news. I didn't see it as the best news, but since Tesla did have those daily divergences, it needed any kind of good news to get a good pop. And now you are popping, but we come outside above the 20 for a moment, and now we're testing the 20 as of right now. Is this area going to be able to hold up? That's overall what we pay attention to over on Tesla. Amazon, this one showing you that rejection of the daily here, rejecting, but notice the 20 is right there. We react off the 20. Now Amazon did go to the 50 once, so we know the 50 is pretty strong as well. So maybe we want to go there. Maybe we just want to react off the 20. Maybe we shrug this off. So I just wanted to show you guys it on the 2-hour, all the divergences that Amazon has. We were telling you how there are plenty of trades to take for the next 2 months if you're worried about anything bad happening and you want to get a little hedge going. And look at that, we are heading closer and closer to the center line. This could be the signal. It confirmed in the last 2 hours there that Amazon might be heading much lower, starting some kind of 2-hour negative trend on the way down. And would you look at that on the 2-hour, Meta actually giving you the same thing. A ton of divergences up in this area. Now we're close to that negative territory. So you still want to pay attention to that actually going into negative territory. I want to keep saying that because this has been a bullish move. And if we do see a little bit of selling before PCE, what if that is actually good news? So you have to be open to it because the Fed is forcing us to react off of data. And we know that if we get any kind of cookie with the data, or even a dead even, like it came in as expected, we could see more bullishness. So we want to see what's going on. We'll have to see if any fundamentals I notice overnight we can talk about in the morning if anything really bad did happen today. So at the end of the day there, if this curls back up positive territory, good news for the bulls. This craziness can continue. Jerome Powell has allowed it at this point, but if this starts to go really negative, break through some key levels like this one here, maybe we head straight for that monthly expected move 451.86 that we gave you for free on here for Meta right? So we're paying attention to these monthly expected moves as this is the last week of the month. And if you want to get these for every single stock that we do follow on this channel, then you can go into the description below, and there's actually a link to Patreon where we give those out. Oh, the VIX. The VIX was so close to doing what I wanted it to, right? We said overall, we said this actually way back here, that some kind of 2-hour divergence down by 13 is what we're going to pay attention to. We come below 13. We were targeting this gap. Guess what? It comes down into there. And now I was saying, I want that divergence at this level. Boom. We don't get it. It doesn't cross down on the MACD. It actually rejects. So this is a good sign that volatility is coming back in. But will that start to fade and give us a divergence soon if this was just some kind of fluke that we need to shake off? So you really still want to pay attention to volatility, but we can show you guys that actually crash indication. Is that flashing as of right now? Really, the VIX giving you indecision on today's bar. Now the crash indication will be you close above 20, you get that 50 to cross the 20, or the 200, sorry about that. You close above the 200 and you get that 50 to cross the 200. Then you're saying, hey, this is going to be a bear market. The volatility is here to stay. This may even be the stock market crash. So the main takeaway here is NVIDIA is showing us a crash signal that we've been looking for, but is this going to be this simple? Is a 2-hour divergence going to dictate exactly what NVIDIA is going to do? That's a little bit why I'm iffy on it. I thought it would be a little more complicated, but it doesn't have to be. I'm still going to trade the price action. I'm going to see if we're able to lose the 20 on the actual stock market, the SPY and the Qs, because that would be a better indication with some confirmation that we're going to see at least some kind of correction here, if not some kind of crash if we get some bad news. So we will be live tomorrow if you guys want to see if we're heading lower, if we're actually going to keep crashing as far as NVIDIA goes. If you want to call that crashing, that's just a regular pullback for NVIDIA these days. But I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for liking, subscribing, joining the live videos. Tons of people on Patreon, you know, really commenting and doing things like that to contribute to the community. Really appreciate that. So I hope you guys have all the luck in the world trading tomorrow, and I hope you have a great night. Peace.